Today we mark and remember Jesus' baptism, one of the three official sacraments that we affirm in the UCC, the others being ordination and communion. A sacrament, as I try to explain and as we talk about in the UCC, is a gift that visibly and tangibly affirms something that we already know to be true. Sacraments help us see, visualize, experience something that is already present, already within us. Sacraments help us to embody it and claim it on the outside of us. As we read today in Matthew, a story echoed in all of the other gospel accounts, Jesus enters the waters of baptism and is baptized by John. When he emerges from the water, a dove appears, recognized by Jesus to be the Spirit of God, and hovers over Jesus. A voice proclaims his belovedness, claims Jesus as God's own. As we understand it in the United Church of Christ, the sacrament of baptism anchors us in the truth that already exists, that the divine holds us, desires us, claims us, and calls us her beloved, that we belong to God, belong to the community. All of this business about being beloved seems especially important to remember in these days where a narrative is being pushed on us that some of us are included in Creator's circle of love and some of us don't deserve it. We are being told that some of us deserve safety and predictability in our neighborhoods and some of us deserve chaos and fear. We are being told that some of us deserve gentle and dignified arrests, and some of us deserve concussions and abrasions as we're thrown to the ground. We're being told that some of us deserve to have our children taken from us, and some of us deserve to have our children grow up in unbothered tranquility. Our baptism reminds us that these stories are a lie. Our baptisms remind us that each one of us is beloved. One of the most compelling lessons from my time in Minneapolis was witnessing how the community is resisting the state violence through the profound and simple act of caring for each other. They are putting up so much resistance, not by protest or marching, although those things matter too. They are being successful in resisting because each resident is doing something to take care of another. And I don't know how many of the resistors are baptized. I don't think it's for nothing, however, that there are more Lutherans in that state than probably the rest of the country. But the people of Minneapolis are responding as if they know in their bones the truth that baptism reveals, which is that we are all deeply, wildly beloved by God, all of us. One of our speakers pointed out to us that the only way that the brutal crackdown that they are experiencing, the only way that tearing families apart and abducting people in the streets and schools, from NICUs, from grocery stores and church parking lots, the only way that level of violence works is if those who they are targeting appear isolated from the rest of us, separated from those of us who are not being targeted. If they are seen as lacking connections and roots in the community, vulnerable in their difference. The only way that wrenching people out of their own neighborhoods can work is if those of us who are not targeted don't feel like those people belong to us. If they're not a part of our communities, don't belong in our schools as our kids' classmates, don't belong in our stores and public spaces, don't belong to us. And Minneapolis has responded to that falsehood by saying out loud and in all caps, they belong to us. They are our beloved. They are God's beloved. Every single person I spoke to is finding a way that matches their own capacities and skills and time to embody that message, to care for their neighbors, a way to push back on the narrative that those being taken don't belong to us. And much of that care that's being done is invisible to us on the outside. The regular guy sitting across from me at the church that hosted us for dinner shared that just that day he had gone shopping for a family of 6. He'd done his best to shop for a list of requests that he got via text, such as noodles. What kind of noodles, he wondered to me out loud. Meat, cereal. He'd taken care with each purchase, trying to think about cultural needs and purchase some off-list extras to convey a sense of his care for them. Then he'd driven his car and dropped off the groceries to a family that hadn't been outside for a month. And then, because he could swing it, he sent money to 2 other grocery shoppers for their bills, because some shoppers can afford the time to shop but not the money. He had dropped $400 that day, feeding 3 families who belonged to his community. I asked him how he got the name, how he got the list of things to shop for, and he explained to me that there was another group or person he didn't know who collects the names and grocery requests and organizes them. And since federal agents are regularly trying to infiltrate mutual aid groups, there was also another group who took on the vetting of those who had offered to do the deliveries so that the aid wouldn't inadvertently send federal agents straight to vulnerable people's doors. This gentleman also told me that because he decided to do grocery shopping and delivery, because he was being directed straight to people's doorsteps, it was imperative that his car and license plate not show up on ICE's radar. Those who are exercising their public right to film government employees fulfilling their duties have the right to do so, but they are having their faces filmed by agents and their license plate recorded and told threateningly that they are being added to some database. So this man avoided detainments as much as he could, never stopping to film or blow whistles. He would just drive around and let somebody else do that part. And I listened to this story, I realized that there were 4 different ways that people were involved in this action, and that not everybody was doing everything, but that everybody was doing something. One of the organizers of our event, Rabbi Rosenbaum, shared that she was late arriving that morning to our Thursday training because she had to make a delivery of breast milk to a 3-month-old infant whose mother had been detained. And I imagined the networks that had been put in place to arrange that, tracking when people are detained and getting their name, refusing to let them just be disappeared because they belong to us. Finding, locating, and connecting with their families afterwards, checking in on their needs, locating another lactating parent who has abundant milk supply and is willing to donate, finding a safe way to collect and deliver the milk without drawing ICE's attention so that this 3-month-old, beloved and claimed by God, can eat. There are groups whose focus is putting on fundraisers for rent money because the next wave of violence that is coming will be economic. When your primary wage earner has been disappeared or you're too afraid to go to work, the rest of the family is so fearful they don't go outside, there's not much money being made in order to pay rent. So there's this huge on-the-ground effort to raise rent money so these families can outlast Operation Metro Surge because they've been there longer than they have. And there are so many skills being contributed toward this effort. Knitters who make the hats for the silent auction, the baker who brings in the homemade apple pie, the artist who creates the flyer, performers who share their talents, and the church that donates the space. Minneapolis made such an impact on me not because, as you might think, the violence and chaos of the federal agents, but because of the everyday people who were stepping forward and insisting on seeing the belovedness of each one of their community members. They were refusing to believe the narrative that any of their neighbors were any less deserving of their care than their own families or they would receive. The care demonstrated in Minneapolis felt like a sacrament of revelation of truth, known on the inside, made manifest on the outside. As we remember Jesus' baptism today, as we remember our own, I pray that we hold fast to the memory that Jesus' ministry began with his baptism. Before he does any ministry, any healing, gathers any disciples, encounters the tempter in the wilderness, he is anchored first in the unshakable truth that he is God's own. As we think about how we might stay true to our own baptismal vows, to resist oppression and evil, to demonstrate love and justice, that we remember that we do this all rooted in the knowledge that all of this comes from the strong knowledge of our own belovedness, comes from the truth that all of our neighbors are beloved. As our poet Jan Richardson reminds us, beloved is where we begin. And the people say, Amen.